Kosher Swedish doom goblin Greta Thunberg has been banned from Venice for dyeing the Grand Canal green over the weekend. Yes, the climate zealot turned anti-Israeli activist and around 36 other global warming alarmists were slapped with the ban, which only lasts 48 hours. Greta also copped a small fine. The activist said the dye is harmless and was used to draw attention to the massive effects of climate collapse. They also displayed a banner reading "Stop Ecocide" from the Rialto Bridge. And it wasn't just Venice. Green dye was released into canals, rivers, lakes and fountains in 10 different Italian cities. Kosher, I don't think the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, is going to be a fan of this sort of activism. She doesn't have much patience for the likes of Greta Thunberg, and she took some tough action during COP30, rejecting various climate change measures that were being proposed.
Yes, she's of this ascendant movement that wants to end all that nonsense and serve her constituents. She's also famous for the eye rolls. I think the Giorgia Meloni eye rolls are a genre unto themselves. But hopefully there's more than eye rolls. I don't know what recourse there is with Greta, because she is ultimately a performance artist, in my opinion. And breaking norms, rules, laws is part of her performance art, and paying the fines is the cost of her act and cost of doing business. So she will incur these fines, but it's just a little bit here and there, a slap on the wrist, and she achieves her goal, which seems less and less to be about climate change and more about fame, personal fame. So she's going to keep doing it.
Well, this is it. She was so passionate about the Palestinian cause, and that seems to have been forgotten because Trump orchestrated a peace deal. She didn't seem to celebrate that too much.
No.
It's just like nothing had happened. Back to the climate alarmism.
Yep, until the next thing opens up for her.
The next thing that the left wing gets behind. Incredible. Now, we've discussed in recent years the rise of the right around the world, from South America to Europe, and that growing list of countries may include France. Marine Le Pen's conviction in an EU corruption case has paved the way for Jordan Bardella to become the leader of France's populist right party. It's called the National Rally, and Kosher, he has taken a commanding lead in the polls. He could become the country's next president. It's quite incredible how popular he is. He's a young man, but people see him as a successor to Emmanuel Macron.
They do, because the fundamentals in Europe and Latin America and all these places, America, England, and here, I would say, are in alignment with the populist right. All those things, from immigration, economy, cost of living, energy that we just discussed. And the movement is bigger than any one person. Yes, if there's a charismatic leader who gives it a jump start, that has value, but it's bigger than that person. Trumpism will exist beyond Trump. Reform Party will exist beyond Nigel Farage, and then here locking Marine Le Pen away, I don't think was going to take out that party. It's like next man up. Not to say that other leaders may fall down or they may lose momentum when these big personalities exit stage left, but he at least seems to be popular. And the French Parliament is very tenuous right now. Ever since Macron called that snap election last June, they've got this very uneasy alliance because they're really trying to keep this ascendant party out. And, that shows up as there's this chronic instability. And the next time there's an election, we shall see, because they've only been gaining ground over the last several years.
Well, Emmanuel Macron seems to get a lot of positive press internationally, but at home, he's far from popular and his track record is pretty poor.
I think he's at 11 to 16% in the approval ratings, which is lower than Hollande. It's like the lowest in decades of anybody. And I would say that the base of the populist right around the world isn't his biggest fan. So certainly in the US, it's fun and he might be charismatic and people love France culturally and all that. But I wouldn't say that he's somebody who really engenders a lot of inspiration from that hard right, populist right base that is ascendant everywhere. And they probably on some level kind of, I don't want to say laugh at him, but sort of see him as from this bygone era, more establishment. And I think these types of people are going to be more and more ascendant.
Now to another country where the right has taken over and dramatically changed things for the better. El Salvador has seen a huge drop in violent crime. It has gone from having one of the highest homicide rates anywhere in the world to one of the lowest, and President Nayib Bukele took to X earlier today to share this video and reaffirm his commitment to tough on crime measures. He tweeted, "They say you can't imprison your way out of crime. But in fact, a strong police force and a tough, well-managed prison system are the necessary first steps in transforming a hellscape into a safe, high-trust society. Let's have a look. Kosher, the stats don't lie here. The drop in violent crime in El Salvador is astonishing. And the fact that he did it so quickly is just as incredible.
He has put that country on the map in a way that is such a blueprint for everywhere, because you see San Francisco, you see Melbourne, you see all these once great, amazing cities telling the opposite story of just crime being on the up and up, not obviously to this level, but it can move quickly. And then you see this other example over here. And, you know, there were examples before, like New York City under Giuliani and all that, where they cleaned up crime. Yeah. But here it is the most extreme because it was known as the homicide capital of the world. There were 106 homicides per 100,000 people before he came in, and now it is less than 2.
Incredible.
Less than 2 in that time.
How does he do that? But you know how he did it. We've seen footage of it. It's by locking away the bad people.
And having a maximalist style prison where they have 23 hours of hard labor, no sunlight, all of that.
People don't want to go to prison.
People don't want to go. It's a true deterrent. And that is a 98% reduction. And it is such a blueprint. So it really makes other leaders look more and more foolish. You could take a place like that and turn it around so quickly. He's the most popular president, 98% approval rating in the world for this reason.
And the philosophy is so at odds with what we've embraced in Australia, because this so-called progressive way of looking at the criminal justice system, where it's all about the offenders' rights, how do we reintegrate them into society, all about that instead of prioritising the safety of the community, punishing people for wrongdoing, and also having punishments that act as a deterrent. That's, again, another message that seems to have been lost.
It's so simple in principle, but for some reason it's not being executed, or we know the reason.
Well, yes, we do. Now, there's been a development in Derek Chauvin's case. That's the man convicted of killing George Floyd, and that triggered the BLM riots of 2020. A conviction many see as political and fundamentally flawed, Kosher, and his defence attorney has now filed a new petition that challenges the murder conviction. And that petition includes over 50 former and current police officers who make sworn declarations that the technique Chauvin used to restrain George Floyd, the knee on the neck, was part of the training given to Minneapolis Police Department officers. Kosher, this is something that is a sleeper issue. I see it come up. There is a lot of interest in it because people have learnt a great deal more about that incident. They've learnt a great deal more about the toxicology report, for example, and they think this is a miscarriage of justice. I've got to say, when I first saw it, I thought this guy's guilty, he deserves to go away, throw away the key. But the information that's come out since then paints a very different picture.
I think you put it very well. It is a sleeper issue. It is very sad because the clock is ticking, and every day that it takes, he's in there. And if it was a miscarriage of justice or an over-criminalization, you don't get that time back if that is the case. It is also an issue that was so engulfed by the court of public opinion on top of the law. We like to say justice is blind and the system is perfect and you never miscalculate or over-prosecute. It does happen, hopefully not often, but it can happen. And this thing, you had everything from the riots, as you say, to the corporate logos, black all over LinkedIn, to everybody being asked about it. And George Floyd was elevated to almost sainthood status, even though he was a very flawed individual, which doesn't excuse what may or may not have happened here. But just nobody could have the guts to even have this discussion back then, would have probably gotten people canceled. And I do think that played a role in the way the jury pool probably reacted or the way the evidence was put forward. We'll never know to what extent, but you know, it's impossible to insulate the jury and the whole system from that, and who knows how much of that played a role, but it certainly seems to have played some role, for sure.
Now, to an issue I don't fully understand still, Bitcoin. It's had its worst month in history, falling to around $80,000 US. Still seems like a lot, but it is its lowest value in over 7 months. 500 billion in value has been wiped off, and investors who've gone into debt to buy Bitcoin are dumping their coins to pay off loans. Kosher, what's driving this plunge? Do you understand Bitcoin? Because I still don't get it.
I think a lot of people, I mean, it is very complicated, and I certainly don't want to suggest that I know all the ins and outs of it, but what happened is it went from about 40,000 per Bitcoin to 100,000 in 1 year. So that's a rapid uprise.
Yeah.
And were the fundamentals driving that only, or were there other things around it, speculation, leverage? And it's the latter. I mean, the fundamentals are what they are. There's value if you believe in decentralized or crypto exchanges and all that. But that kind of a bull run.
What's it based on? Like, it seems to be a currency based on, I don't know, mining electricity or something. It seems not to have a value base. That's what confuses me about it.
They
and
claim
it is
that
so volatile. I mean, it has had
Yes.
these dramatic increases and drops, but overall, it's trended up.
The crux of it is there's like a finite amount of this. There's like 21 million Bitcoin or something like that. It will never be increased. Is the belief system. So it's kind of like gold or what have you, that there's a finite supply, and so that's why there will always be inherent value to it. But there was so much around this where there was institutional buying, there was extreme leverage, and all of that at once. It's sort of a cascade effect of many things in the system that are changing and flipping at once, where institutions are dumping, interest rates they were expecting would drop by a certain time frame, they didn't. And then what's happening is those big institutions can cut their losses and dump. The profit takers did that and have made a lot of money over that bull run. The ones who have the ability to hold it for the long run are holding it. So these other people got wiped out, the ones who took on debt to buy it.
The ones who bought 100,000 are the ones who are feeling
and no one
it.
is buying it now, so then that will lead to a tank until there's a correction to whatever the market believes is a fair price, and then I think people might get back in.
Giorgia, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.